Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gershwan, and today we're going to be talking about the Ork Freebooter. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. And before we start the video, I wanted to let you guys know, yes, I know this is Sunday and it's supposed to be a Space Marine lore video today, but I've been working on a successor chapter video for quite some time now, and I'm not done. I'm not going to be done until late Sunday, and I'm not trying to compete with the Super Bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wait and post it on Monday. So stay tuned for tomorrow for a cool Space Marine video. But with that said, let's get into 40 facts on the Ork Freebooters. Freebooters are piratical orcs who exist on the fringe of the orc culture. They are bandits belonging to no specific tribe or clan, but who will work with a tribe as well as stand against any other if the price is right. Freebooters are orc warbands that are composed of a variety of orc mobs from several different warbands or orcs who have separated themselves from their former clan by choice or through exile. These roving bands are composed of renegades, bandits, pirates, and other outcasts. Some of these orcs are fugitives, eccentrics, and the remnants of shattered green-skinned tribes. So it is hardly surprising that many freebooters have very treacherous and unpleasant characteristics even by standards of an orc. Most freebooter mobs hire themselves out as mercenaries, or else they can be persuaded to join in battle with the promise of loot. Amongst the freebooters are a handful of unstable individuals who are particularly dangerous and aggressive even by orc standards. These orcs wander off and tend to form their own small roving bands of pirates. Naturally, they are eager for adventure, combat, and booty. Not that kind of booty, no. And are quite happy to tag along with other orc tribes and waz as mercenaries. Freebooters wear styles of dress intended to emphasize their mercenary status, decorating themselves with flamboyant clothing and piercings such as ears and nose rings. Having long since abandoned any tribe or clan loyalty, they have adopted highly personalized insignia in place of their former clan symbol. Often they will employ what the Imperium has named the Jolly Orc, skull, and crossbone icon, a universal symbol for all freebooters. These mercenary orcs are known to use this symbol to adorn their banners, clothes, and vehicles. Freebooters are recognized by their ragtag appearance of their orc bionics, due to the lack of their access to pain boys or mech boys. Their injuries are often superficially treated, thus many freebooters sport peg legs, hooks, and eye patches. When not employed, freebooters live in destroyed spacecraft and hide out in isolated planets and large asteroids. The band is usually led by a hardened warboss who prefers the title of captain. These individuals are the biggest, strongest, and most cunning cutthroat orcs within the mercenary bands. They dress even more flamboyantly than their fellow orc freebooters, often sporting large tyrocorn hats and thick gray coats that conceal numerous weapons. Orcs rarely organize above the level of a single ship. However, small fleets can be formed around a particular charismatic or successful orc captain. The mind of an orc freebooter, two things are most important: battle lust and greed. Freebooters want more of everything: more weapons to grow stronger, more salvage to build ships, more war machines, and more wealth for prestige amongst their kind. Orcs are usually encountered in small raiding ships, roughly the size of an imperial escort vessel. However, the size of an orc void ship is deceptive. The ship is crammed with green tides of orcs, which ensure that any boarding action is likely to go the way of the orcs. An attack by an orc freebooter tends to be brutal and direct, with the orc ship rushing headlong toward the enemy, firing every gun they have before ramming and boarding their victim. The directness of the orc freebooter attack does not mean that an orc freebooter captain lacks cunning. Orcs often lurk in asteroid fields on the edge of the system where they cannot be seen by the sensors of ships. Ambushes on convoys of supply ships from this kind of hidden position are common, and even small fleets of warships are not unheard of. Should an Ork freebooter captain feel the need for a bigger prey, the crew may descend on an inhabited world or space station, loot and burn it, and withdraw to their ships at the protection of the debris field. If, however, the orcs of the freebooter fleet are really spoiled for a big fight, they are likely to brutalize a world or void station and just wait and see who or what turns up to try to stop them. Ork freebooters lurk throughout the Coronis expanse in the region of the Halo stars beyond the Calixis sector. From crude space stations built in asteroid fields or debris clouds, numerous Ork freebooter captains lead their ships to loot whatever they can find and fight whoever crosses their path. Those Ork flashgits who acquire too many teeth, even for their fellow gits to stomach, are often exiled from their clan and forced to join a freebooter band. Sometimes Ork war bosses get pushed out of their tribes by a new war boss who does not succeed in slaying them. These giant orcs and their retinue of knobs often become the foundation of a new freebooter clan. Some freebooter bands are made up of mech boys from different tribes who have gathered together in pursuit of their common interest in a certain technology. This is true, for instance, of the Ork biker who makes up the freebooter band of Wazdaka Gutsmech. Many of the Ork pain boys who have performed the infamous but popular squig brain transplant get exiled from their tribe after only a few successful operations and find new lives among the freebooters, though whether this is actually an advantage or hindrance is a very much of an issue. Those Ork runt herders who begin to feel for their Gretchen and can no longer stand to see their grots used as cannon fodder often leave their tribes behind and become freebooters, such as Zadrog Warsnaga. Some Ork speed freaks get exiled from their tribe for their particularly destructive feats of vehicular daring-doos. They inevitably end up among the forces of the freebooters. Those weird boys who become addicted to their psychic powers often eventually become deadly dangerous to their tribe and are forced into exile. Some of these renegade psychers have even become demon hosts, which make them even more dangerous. However, there are many Ork freebooters that are still willing to take in these orcs. Outlaws are feral orcs whose only contact with more advanced Ork culture has been through the freebooter bands. They often join to see the verse. Some orcs develop mutations when exposed to the power of chaos or other environmental mutagens. Just like humans and any other intelligent race, these greenskins are shunned by their own people just as any other mutants are, though they are sometimes accepted by freebooters. Orcs are very rarely corrupted by chaos, but some of the more vicious and militant Ork captains will seek to serve the cause of the Dark Gods in return for the power they grant him. These are called Chaos Renegade Ork warbands. Some Ork Stormboys discover the doctrines of the Blood God Khorne are right up their alley. Of course, they are usually ejected from their tribes for betraying the worship of Gork and Mork. Like other exiles, they often become freebooters, called Khorninite Stormboys. Some Gretchen find the freebooter lifestyle even appealing and come to believe that they can be as effective at piracy as the bigger greenskins. Sometimes they are actually even right. Among the most dangerous freebooters are those groups of orcs who have been infected by the DNA of a tyrannid gene stealer and produce the immensely powerful Ork gene stealer hybrid from their reproductive spores. These groups form Orkoid gene stealer cults and often act as freebooter pirates preying on Imperial commercial and passenger shipping to spread the infection. These freebooters are some of the most dangerous Xenos in the galaxy. Better known as Captain Badrock, Badrock is one of the most infamous Ork freebooters or space pirates of all time. he has plied the stars in his steed-jawed kill cruiser, the Blacktooth, for several blood-splattered decades. He is the commanding officer of the Ork pirate band known as Badruck's Flashgits, who have fought with many of the Ork war bosses active in the Imperial space. He holds forth to any that will listen that without the devastating weapons of his gits, many of those self-made warlords would have been long dead, a claim that any who has seen his pirate band in action may well believe. When High Fleet Behemoth fell upon the pirate base of Captain Blackgit, the Ork cruiser that formed Blackgit's fleet launched boarding parties to storm the encroaching bioships. The tide soon turned when the rampaging orcs awoke the termagants within each ship. They spawned countless broods of termagants. The orcs are swamped by the termagants, who then quickly use the same orcs' boarding tubes to go back and slaughter the crew. Blackgit, sensing defeat as the communication from his fleet abruptly ended, attempted to escape by ramming his ship through a lone bio-vessel blocking his path, only to fatally discover it is a starship-sized spore mine. An infamous Ork freebooter captain who led his freebooters in a raid against the Strathium orbital space docks, but were successfully driven off by Elysian troops, ending a decade-long blockade by the alien pirates. Bloodflag, also known as Captain Bloodflag, is an infamous Ork freebooter captain who has commanded his Ork pirate crew across the Corrosian sector in a savage display of destruction. He plundered the Aurelian subsector for an unknown period of time during the Third Aurelian Crusade. Unlike most Ork war bosses, Bloodflag is not entirely motivated by the desire of a bigger wah, but by loot. This drove him to become a successful freebooter and provide him with the unusual ability for an Ork of choosing only to fight in the battles that he saw as most profitable. As a lowly Ork soldier on the kill cruiser in the Corbus Expanse, the Ork known as Borgum loved the thrill of boarding enemy ships with his freebooter crew, the Bone Skulls. He earned a reputation for brutality in those boarding actions against the Imperial ships. Blasting Umis was a skill that he excelled at, and he was chosen to personally accompany his captain on a raid against the frigate Hammer of Heresy. When the orcs boarded the ship, the fighting was fierce, and Borgrum and his freebooter captain became separated from the other raiders below deck. Unbeknownst to the captain, Borgrum had his sights on bigger things for himself, and used the chaos of combat to plunge his chopper deep into the back of his leader. After dispatching the defenders, Borgrum made his way back to the raiding party, wearing the captain's oversized hat on his head and Shuda at his side. The other boys didn't seem to care much about the change in command, as the plunder was great. Borgrum easily assumed control of the kill cruiser Gork's Gobble Grinder and set off to make a name for himself in the Expanse. Since taking control of the Bone Skulls freebooters, Borgrum has launched numerous successful raids against merchants and naval targets, ready for plunder. He is currently planning a large-scale assault on the shipping lanes near the mall, confident this would draw many more recruits under his name. The first freebooter to fall in line with Warlord Gruck Faceripper and his Red Wah was Dakbad Firegut and his pirates. He formed the vanguard of the Ork Raiders. Dakbad's void ships had spent standard years raiding the world surrounding Iraq with reckless violence, typical of any freebooter worth his bloodthirsty reputation. When Gruck offered the captain a chance to share in the riches of battle, Dakbad did not take long to convince. Those worlds that had once been too well defended or too strong for the freebooters' fleet now fell under the meaty fist of Gruck. Firegut met his hand upon the world of Osteria, the chapter homeworld of the Obsidian Glaives Space Marine chapter. He was charged by Gruck to test the formidable defenses of their fortress monastery, the Penumbra Spike. Leading a force of over 250,000 greenskins, Firegut led a massive assault upon the formidable citadel, but ultimately the orcs were wiped out by the surviving obsidian glaives and their formidable reinforcements comprising of 11 dreadnoughts. Firegut met his end at the hands of their chapter master, Midness. After 15 years of raiding Winterscale's realm, Grubscrab the Unstoppable was returned to Undra Teeth, a track of systems at the heart of the Accuser's Dems. This is a nest and breeding ground for orcs. Grubstraga's return was met with heavy fire from guns of vessels commanded by orc loyal to their Morgish or Naga. Since then, Grubstrag has proven to be a match for both rivals, despite lacking the sheer numbers of Morgrash growing fleet or the resources that Snaga controls. Grubscrabs is an exceptionally cunning creature, and though not as belligerent or ruthless as Morgash, his grasp of naval strategy is remarkable for an orc after years spent clashing against humans and Eldar fleets, observing their tactics. Grubscraga wanted to control Undra Teeth, and to do so he'd have to kill Morgash and Snaga, or possibly supplant one and use his newfound resources to defeat the other. Force of arms is not an option, so the leader may ally with one temporarily, looking for a chance to betray his boss. The world of Tyrax IV hosted a small mining colony near the northern border of the Cornus Expanse. A group of imperial settlers established the outpost to take advantage of the rich promethium veins located deep within the planet. When the miners detected an unknown ship entering the outskirts of the system, they attempted to hail it. They only served to alert the kill cruiser Krob's Crusher to their location. The next month would become what one colonist's distress call referred to as Hell Unleashed, as Krod's boys took great delight in slaughtering the miners while the captain's mech boys performed all manners of experiments to discover the various use of promethium. Krod became increasingly more and more demanding for vast stores of promethium to be mined, and he worked his crew round the clock to harvest all he could. His trusted weirboys continually asserted that a terrible danger was rapidly approaching. Finally, Krod gathered his boys and left the world a shattered, broken shell. The excessive mining had destabilized the veins of promethium running deep in the core of the world, and his ship left orbit as the planet exploded. The massive explosion rained debris throughout the system and crippled 3 of the Xeno ships that had made their escape. Krod had not been seen or heard from in decades since the world's destruction, and many wonder if he fell victim to his own greed on Tyrax IV. Morgash Kogras is one of the most prominent freebooters in the Cornus Expanse, who is making a bid for the overall leadership of the orc worlds within the region known as Undra Teeth. Morgash is a cunning and ambitious freebooter captain. The brutal orc leader first appeared in the Cornus Expanse aboard a heavily damaged Space Hulk, the Fist of Gork. Although barely space-worthy, the Hulk was filled with loot from the parts of the galaxy unknown. None could say how long the Space Hulk had drifted in the warp before arriving at Undra Teeth, but Morgash, impressed arrivals, was just the beginning of his rise to power. A cunning master of ship-to-ship combat, Morgash wrestled control of the largest and most powerful ship in the system, a massive battlecruiser named the Worldbreaker. Morgash then got a crew of the strongest, most aggressive boys from the other captains, including as many of the psychic orc weird boys as he could. The Worldbreaker quickly became a ship as legendary as its captain, a nightmarish sight that caused panic among smugglers and rogue traders alike. In the region, Morgash had struck quickly and forcefully in every raid, allowing handfuls of survivors to spread the infamy across the expanse. Armed with weapons of baleful and bizarre cast, the Worldbreaker is constantly surprising its enemies. It is not often that captains of freebooter crews are also skilled in one of the various odd boys disciplines. Rekka is one of those rare exceptions, and is a mech that rose to command his own crew and ship. From the bridge of his battlecruiser, Gorkius Mex, This cunning greenskin has carved a path of plunder throughout the southwest sector of the Cornus Expanse, all while continuing to create new orc technology for his boys to use. One of his most notable claims to fame amongst the freebooters is the development of a massive ship-mounted shock attack gun. Like its smaller, shoulder-mounted counterpart, this massive weapon opens a tunnel between 2 points through the warp. Rekka uses this weapon to send hordes of boys into the enemy ship. This sudden appearance of scores of greenskins inside the secured area of a ship catches the defenses off guard and gives the freebooters a defensive advantage in boarding actions. Rekka has also created special helmets for his warriors to wear that help shield them from the horrors of the warp tunnel, though often sending helmetless boys into the battle works just as well for him. This whirling doom has crippled at least 3 human warships, making Rekka one of the most wanted freebooters in the Expanse. Scabgob has a deserved reputation amongst the freebooters as a roit sneaky git, but he also has brute strength and warrior skills to thrash any orc that gets on his bad side. When on a mission, Scabgob camouflages himself by strapping pieces of scrap and debris over his armor and creating wires across his chest. The commando is particularly proud of his helmet, fashioned from the Imperial Terminal, though it's questionable if this tactic actually contributes. Scabgob is an undeniably effective saboteur. In battle, Scabgob favors weapons he calls the neck cutter, a vicious double-ended chain knife looted from a forsaken world upon which no sane being would tread. Skullcap Grazlets is as dangerous as any orc boss and almost impossible to stop once in combat. As with many freebooters, Grazlet's armor is tailored and accessorized to mimic that of an Imperial Navy officer. Whether this is a true imitation or another example of the orc's instinctive knowledge, no one can say. Like any good orc, Grazlets prefers to lead from the front, ripping enemies apart with his power claw or looping heads off with his crude yet effective chain axe. Grazlets gets a particular kick out of slaying enemy captains, generally making such deaths as messy as possible to remind the boys who's in charge. Claiming to be centuries old and having fought in the last war, Snagga, Morbad, is really only clinging to power. Though perhaps not as old as he claims, Snagga is old, and while he retains the massive frame and powerful physique of his youth, something about him failed long ago, and the captain is quite mad. His insanity has taken its toll, and he is easily distracted and often forgetful of simple matters, though still possessed of a fearsome rage that has left piles of corpses in his wake. Clad in a colossal suit of mega armor, Snagga remains a terrifying opponent, so long as he remains lucid enough to fight. Snagga's dominance of the orbits of Tusk has forced Grubscrap and Morgash to establish bases of operation elsewhere. Zod Grob Warsnagga is an infamous orc runt herder who was exiled from the Snakebites clan and became an orc freebooter, selling the services of his mercenary band of enhanced Gretchen known as the Super Runts to desperate orc warbosses and warlords in need of troops. Old Zogwarts is the only freebooter of sorts, but one of the most powerful warpheads in existence. He travels from battle to battle, looking for places where Wa psychic energy flows like waterfalls. He has seen great battles, and he soaks them up, reviling in his power until a bolt of green lightning flies from his eyes and turns his foes into squigs. And those were 40 facts on the Ork Freebooters. I'm going to go back to editing the cool Space Marine lore video that I have prepared for you guys for tomorrow. Enjoy the Super Bowl, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. This is Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Oh, if you could put my freedom first.